still getting cleaned up here. So the theme of the event today is emergence, and we like to think that we live in a time of emergence. And there have been many similar times of emergence throughout history. For example, if we go back to the Third Kingdom of Egypt, about 2666 BC, the king, whose name was Zoser at the time, commanded his people to build a pyramid of 6 steps surrounded by a large temple complex. And it was the first of the great Egyptian pyramids, and it was an astonishingly complex project. Materials had to come from throughout the kingdom. Thousands of laborers worked according to a plan that unfolded over more than 20 years. The man who put that plan together and executed it was named Imhotep. And he was a scholar, a physician, an architect. And more than 1,000 years later, he would be deified by the Egyptian people as the patron saint of, among other things, scribes. Now, it's very appropriate that the man who helped usher in Egypt's era of pyramid building is remembered by history as a writer, because all of these grand projects, the things that emerge, are the product of many people working together through space and over time, united by communication technology. Whether you're building a pyramid, a Great Wall of China, or a transcontinental railroad, these structures, these groups of people working together, are what the sociologist Lewis Mumford called mega machines. Networks of people joined by roads, by words, and by laws to pursue collective dreams. Mumford was writing in the early 20th century, but he wouldn't have been too surprised by the shape our society has taken in the time since then. We now have globe-spanning instantaneous communication. We have transportation networks that can take us almost anywhere we want to go within a few days. And we have one of the largest, richest, and most complex education systems the world has ever seen. Now, this has allowed us to accomplish great things, not just in the physical realm, but in terms of technological innovation. So take the phones that I would assume 99% of you have in your pockets. Like the pyramids, the components of those phones came from far away, but in this case, we're talking about halfway around the world, not just the far reaches of the Egyptian empire. The labor that went into that phone involves millions of people, not just thousands, and technology that it developed over more than 100 years, going back at least to the time of the telegraph. As a human accomplishment, an iPhone puts the pyramids of Giza and Cheops to shame. Now, the example of the iPhone also gets us into the realm of a topic that we're not usually used to thinking about as a communication technology or a form of social organization, and that's money. Now, we now increasingly believe that a lot of the laborers who worked on the Great Pyramids were actually paid and not slaves, as was so often depicted in Hollywood movies. King Zoser also had to pay for the materials. He had to pay for food for the laborers. And it was really easy for him to marshal those resources, right? Because he's the king. He just says, we're going to build this big pile of rock in tribute to me. And it happens. For us to accomplish big things is a little bit more complicated, but also a little bit more efficient. We make individual choices about our spending, our investments, our donations, our taxes, and that money goes to the various things that we believe that we need or we want to see happen. And that has allowed us to do some amazing things. But I'm here, and by the way, I snuck these on stage. So I made it this far pretty okay, but I'm gonna cheat now. We have a money system that's more efficient and more effective than many points in history, if not any points in history, and it's allowed us to accomplish all these great things. And we may not necessarily wish that that was the case. I can talk to you for hours about income inequality as long as you can afford my fee. But we don't have to agree that reality is fair to agree that it is reality. That's why I'm here today to talk to you about something called a blockchain that is emerging and that will do for our money system what the internet did for information and what the internal combustion engine did for transportation, by making it more swift, cheap, widespread, granular, and did I already say fast? Yes. The blockchain is something you may already be familiar with from the example, the cryptocurrency Bitcoin that everybody was talking about, especially a couple of years ago. And Bitcoin and the technologies that emerge out of it are going to help us take our society to a new level of efficiency. And we're going to have collective projects like this pyramid that are simultaneously grander and more subtle than we've ever seen before. Sorry, I'm making it rain ideas here. But first, the present. Somehow, in this era of astonishingly advanced communication technologies and transportation networks, our money system lags a little bit behind. So we have a lot of points that are kind of pain points where there are maybe inefficiencies, excessive strangulating fees, or what the classifieds back in the day used to call missed connections. So for example, we can now talk live to somebody in Mongolia over video chat. But if we want to send them $20, it might take a week. If you're an inventor, you can browse Alibaba for the parts available from factories halfway around the world. But to pay for those parts, you may actually have to go down to the bank, purchase a money order, put it in an envelope, and then send it across the ocean. A Bedouin traveling the desert can download Moby Dick to his iPhone for free. But if he wrote the Great Arabian Novel and his American publisher wanted to send him a royalty check, Western Union might end up taking 25% of that.